Hello again, everybody. It's Jerry Slater for Your Town at Work, and we are here with someone who needs no introduction at all. But I might add, we don't have him here as the co-host of Dancing with the Stars, but we do have him here as the chairman of the Board of Assessors for the town of Norwood. Tim McDonough, welcome.
Jerry, thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
All right, so the biggest question that I have for you is the lay of the land here. So in Norwood, your exact title is Chairman of the Board of Assessors.
That's correct.
We
Yep.
don't call you the town assessor.
No, because I'm a member of a board. There's 3 people on the board. There's Mr. Robert Thornton, who many people will know also as a former town clerk and accountant for 35 years, and Mr. Jim Grover. Jim is one of the assistant building inspectors in Needham, and also one of the big leaders on the Colonial Boys, and very active in Norwood, lifelong resident, born and bred here. So we're a board of 3 appointed by the Board of Selectmen. We serve for 3-year terms, and of that, I happen to be the chairman, as appointed by my fellow board members. And we have an assistant assessor, Patty Farioli, who works upstairs, and an administrative assistant, Donna Donnelly. And I must say that those 2 have the brunt of the work.
They make you look good, huh?
They do make me look good, and the office runs smooth because we're a busy office. We're very busy. This week in particular, just because we just got to the point of advising the selectmen and getting the tax rate set. I'm waiting momentarily for the state to approve so that we can get ready to send out the bills. So in the next month or so, I'm not going to be a popular person, but it's necessary to keep government going. So
let's talk about the assessment department a little bit. And what you actually do, because you alluded to it now, and it goes beyond just affecting homeowners. It's all property, right?
it's all properties, commercial, residential, industrial, and personal property, which is a whole different aspect, which a lot of people don't even know that we assess personal property. And that's basically, if you have an office, you're taxed in addition to, if you own the building, you're taxed for the computers, the desks, the chairs, by mass general law. It's not Norwood, it's right across the Commonwealth. So that's one huge aspect of raising revenue for the town is the tax rate and bringing in revenue that way. In addition to that, and I spent many years in private industry doing real estate appraisals, so I never even realized the impact of excise tax. I always paid it and never knew what it went for, but every vehicle that's registered to the town, in the town of Norwood, is taxed by the Registry of Motor Vehicles, with the revenue coming to Norwood. And if you think about it, the number of vehicles, especially with the auto mile, we have thousands and thousands of transactions where people either sell a car or transfer the plate. So that takes up a huge amount of time with our office. We get recordings from the Registry of Deeds that have to change every month on property ownership. We have the Community Preservation Fund, which came in last year.
Right.
Where people could apply for an abatement, and we had, well over 100 people came in and applied for that. So it's a really busy office for 3 people. I was mentioning to somebody the other day, some 25 years ago, the town went through a early retirement incentive, and I happened to be on the Board of Selectmen at the time, and my predecessor, my dear friend Paul Wanasek, there used to be an office of 4, and Paul said, well, we could give up 1 position. And we were on the Board of Selectmen, and we accepted his recommendation, and we cut 1 position from the Board of Assessors. If I'd known now what I knew then, I never would have done it. But I'm very lucky with the staff I have. They're dedicated, they're hardworking, and it works. It works.
So now we every 3 years, I think we go through a reassessment, revaluation.
Yep.
That's happening. I don't want to date our segment, but it happens. It's happening real time now.
Exactly. The state has changed a lot of the municipal laws, and forever and ever, it was every 3 years there would be what they call a full certification, where every property was basically looked at and given a once-over pretty methodically. That law has now changed. It's going to be every 5 years from here on in. But this is the last year of the 3-year cycle for Norwood. So, in other words, every property is looked at every year. But every 3 years, now to be 5 years, they look at it much more under a microscope. In the interim years, they call it an interim adjustment. So they look at sales and they go out and do somewhat inspections to see where the market is. And what a lot of people, Jerry, they don't understand, there's a difference between an assessed value and an appraised value.
Right.
And I did appraisals for over 20 odd years. An appraisal is kind of like a real-time value. I go out and look at your house and I say, all right, Jerry has, say, a Cape-style house, and say it's down on Codman Road. Well, I go down to Codman Road and I look around and I see, all right, there's one on Cameron that's sold and one on Ellis Ave, and you make adjustments, but you're looking at properties that have sold within 6 months. When you're doing an assessment, okay, it's called a mass appraisal. And if you realize it, it makes much more sense. You need a lot more data to get the correct value. So what you're doing is taking 1 full year of data from January 1st of, in this particular year, January 1st of 2017 to the end of December in 2017. And then you're comparing, contrasting. Okay, property values were going up here. Property values were going down here. This style house was going up here. And I mentioned that the other night at the tax hearing. In particular, it's funny, for a long time, ranches, nobody wanted a ranch. They wanted the colonial or, the split level, but now the most popular style is a ranch. And it makes sense when you think about it. Norwood is an aging community, and a lot of seniors want to downsize. They don't want to be going up and downstairs, so they want one level living. They want to walk in, have the bedroom here, and the bathroom here, and the living room here, and the garage here, if they can. So the bottom line is everything comes down to we have to get approval from the state. The Department of Revenue is really my boss, and we can't do anything without their approval.
And so the reassessment is involving now, we have a company that we work with.
Yeah, we contract with a company, a couple of different companies. We contract with Vision for our residential and commercial properties, and RRC for our personal property. In addition, the other thing that I wanted to try and get out there is every 9 years, the state mandates that every property must be inspected, commercial and residential. And it's called a full measure and list, and it's a pretty big project. We're undergoing it right now. They started about 2 months ago, and it's going to continue through the spring. And if you think about it, we have over 9,000 parcels. Oof. So people, it's inexpensive. Town meeting was very generous and approved $275,000 to get this done. But we're mandated. It's not an option. We have to do it. And a lot of people I know like, well, what exactly is going on? And we have Vision going out, and they'll knock on your door and they'll see if they can come in to look at the house. And a lot of people are very skeptical and don't want people in, and that's fully within their right. They can refuse admission. However, I'll give you just a quick example of why it's important. I had somebody in my office last week who said, you're taxing me for above ground pool. I haven't had that for 3 years. And I said, well, what did you do with it? Oh, I tore it down. I said, well, did you take out a building permit? No. Well, so how would I know, unless you either came in and told us or pulled a building permit, we would have no idea of what's going on. So it's important to get correct information. We want to make sure the house is measured right. That if you have one bathroom instead of two, we're only taxing you for one. So it's really a good idea to at least even answer the information. They may answer it at the door and say, yeah, I have 3 bedrooms, I have 1 bath, I have a finished basement. You don't have to let them in, but it's sort of to your advantage because you want to make sure we're taxing you right. We don't want to overtax you. I know most people want to be undertaxed, but that usually doesn't happen so much.
So we're talking about the tax rate, and this is especially in light of current events in our town, with talk of a possible override. Prop 2.5.
Yep.
People always ask this. How does that affect my tax bill?
Sure. It's very legitimate because I've had people call me up and say, my tax bill went up more than 2.5%. The 2.5% relates strictly to the levy, the amount of money that can be raised. So if you take all the money that was raised last year at town meeting to be spent, and you take off the receipts, that remaining part is the levy, which is the amount of money to be raised by taxes. That can go up 2.5%, okay, which it does every year automatically. Now, after that's done, okay, what happens to the property values? And that gets into the whole question of, okay, what's selling higher? For example, this year, condominiums went up 10%. It's a lot more than 2.5%, but it's based upon sales in 2017. And I think if anybody reads the paper or is watching the news, they know that property values have been going crazy. Every town, not just Norwood, but in 2017, there were bidding wars. So some property values might have gone up. Colonials, which historically were a top dollar getter, had no increase, 0%. Ranches went up, I think, approximately 7%. So after the 2.5% is added to the levy, then the levy has to be split out based upon the property values. And the property values can fluctuate. Some might go up, some might go down. It depends upon the style, it depends upon the neighborhood, it depends upon the age, condition. The typical factors, location is a big thing. If it's on a busy street, it's not going to be assessed that much higher. But so it is confusing when people say, well, 2.5%. 2.5% is what the levy can go up, not what property values can go up.
So probably a simple way of thinking of it, let me see if I've got this right, is the levy goes up 2.5%, but how it's spread
Correct.
is where the
and
difference.
that's where Norwood is, very lucky that we have a split tax rate where we shift a lot of the burden to commercial properties. The other night, the selectmen voted to shift the burden 61% more to commercial properties. So our new tax rate for residential the tax rate is actually going down 25 cents, and it's going up on the commercial approximately about the same. But it's all in, trying to be fair and equitable. We love the businesses in Norwood, and they pay a lot of money so that the residents don't have to. So the Board of Selectmen historically have been very fair in trying to make sure that the shift does not hurt the businesses and yet helps the property owners.
Super. Tim, anything that we missed about what your office does?
We try and just be as public friendly as we can. Obviously, sometimes of the year, people don't like us. They're not going to like us in the next few weeks when they get their tax bills. But you know, Norwood is a great community. Obviously, you know, I've been here my whole life, and you know, when I look around at surrounding towns and what we provide and what we have for services, we're very, very lucky. It's just a great community, a great group of people that give, you know, whether it's a Circle of Hope or so many other charities in this town, and it's a great group. I mean, I've been here, I've been on the board 8 years. Prior to that, between school committee and selectmen was 19 years, so obviously I've got kind of a commitment here to this. And it's a little bit different going from private sector to public, but you know, interacting with the public is a great thing, and explaining things to people, it makes it well worth it every day to come to work.
Well, and you know, you do such a great job. I mean, we could go on for another half an hour to talk about everything you do for aside from your now day job. But Tim, always a pleasure.
Jerry, thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
All right. Well, we have a perfect segue because we're going to go to meet your town official with Chairman of the Board of Selectmen, Tom Maloney.
One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have excellent support in the office. They prepare the agenda, they prepare the supporting documentation. It usually goes out to us on the previous Friday, and so therefore the Tuesday itself is probably not too bad. There might be 1 or 2 last minute things, and I'll get a call, would you like to put this on the agenda? Would you want to put that? Do you want to add this? Do we, you know, maybe if we need to change the time, but usually not. So I will come in probably in the afternoon to sign the warrants if I can, sign the warrants, and then go back to work and then come back later. Right around 6 o'clock, I'll meet with Tony Mizuko at 6 o'clock for about 15, 20 minutes, and then I'll go on upstairs to the chambers, and usually my colleague Paul Bishop is already there. And so we tell a few jokes and have a few laughs, and then everyone starts filtering in and we get ready to go, and then I call places. And NCM's Brian Boudreau gets set, he does a great job, and away we go. It is so concrete and direct, and even if you're just helping one person or one family, you can see they asked for this, we were able to do it, period. So that it's rewarding, and it's good for the town too. The town knows, boy, if they help my neighbor, they'll help me. If I need something, I'm paying all these taxes, can they pick up the phone and help me out? Yes, we can. I mean, I had a wonderful father who passed away a year and a half ago. So I would be remiss if I didn't mention my father, and it's true. I mean, you know, it's funny how you don't realize how much like your own parents you are. Even if you try not to be, you will find out, whether it's in attitudes or you know, sort of the way of looking at the world, even mannerisms. I have mannerisms that my father had, and my wife will point it out. I said, I do that? He did that? Yeah. Or both parents. I live here in Norwood. I've lived in Norwood for 19 years with my wife Kathy. We've been married 34 years, and we have 2 children. John is 22, graduate of Norwood High School and UMass Amherst, and Laura is 15, and she's here at Norwood High School now as a sophomore. And we've been blessed to have 2 really good kids. Well, my first job, I think, was probably selling Fuller brush products. I was a door-to-door salesman, and I discovered something very important. I didn't want to be a door-to-door salesman. That's what I learned from that job. $1975 Olds Cutlass. I bought it in 1982. I paid Mr. William Cashman $2,500 cash for it, and I kept it till 1989. It was a great car. I watch a lot of hockey in the winter too. I played and coached basketball. You know, I mean, all the 4 major sports that we grew up with: football, hockey, basketball, baseball. Of course, if you like sports, you liked them all. And in Boston, you had plenty of all of them. That was pretty good. I guess I don't know if I'd pick a favorite among them. You know, it varies from time to time. In the mid-'80s, I'd have told you the Celtics in basketball. Right now, I'd probably say more the Bruins, I guess, but it's winter. Probably a Hershey bar with almonds. That's a real favorite. Yeah, Hershey with almonds. That's probably the favorite candy bar. There aren't too many candies I don't like. Almond Joy, Mounds bars are good. Sky bar was good. Yeah. I did college and community theater, semi-professional theater, for a long time, really. I directed a few shows, did lighting, I was a stage guy. Maple walnut, maybe. I don't know. No, mint chocolate chip. Put down mint chocolate chip. Practice patience as much as possible. I know that sounds, I'm trying to sound deep or something, but really patience is a virtue. Did somebody ever say that? Or did I just make that up? I don't know. But anyway, patience is a virtue. You really try to understand where other people are coming from.
All right, it's Jerry Slater again, and we are at Town Hall, and we've got a quick catch-up with our own Tom McQuaid, who is now just the town...
My new title is Director of Finance and Accounting.
Thank you for that. So no longer town clerk.
That's correct. July 1st, 2018, Mary Lou Folan was promoted to town clerk, and richly deserved. She's been the assistant for a number of years, and of course she's always done the day-to-day work of that office, so now she has the responsibility as well.
That's awesome. And we'll get Mary Lou to speak for herself, but from your perspective, what's changed?
Well, let me maybe just mention a little on the clerk side. You know, she's done a lot of nice initiatives, and she can get into those, and you know, but she's doing a lot of work on early voting and elections, and she's working on the 2020 census for the to coordinate with the feds. So she's quite active, and her staff loves working directly for her, and I don't think she could be doing a better job.
Well, and we know, anybody who knows Mary Lou knows she was not gonna sing her praises when she talks to me, so thank you for doing that, and you know, well said. Now from your standpoint, so obviously things are going well, are you completely out of that world and just concentrating on town finances?
Yeah, pretty much. So, you know, I'm always there as a resource to Mary Lou. For instance, sometimes the campaign finance reports that are the responsibility of the clerk can be complicated, and the rules are kind of difficult to understand. And just where I'm a finance background, if she ever has questions, I'm available to help her out on that. But in general, yeah, she's pretty much taken over that. So now I didn't spend 50% of my time on the town clerk things, because Mary Lou obviously was doing the day-to-day. One of the things that I did spend a lot of time on for the clerk is we're the public records office of the town clerk. So I spent quite a bit of time interacting with people on that. So that's probably, let's say overall, I've given up 5% of my time that I was doing as town clerk to be full-time finance director. So we have a great finance team, made up of Mark Good, our treasurer collector, and Tim McDonough, our assessor. So, of course, I have a great staff as well. So
We definitely do. Now, I would be remiss because of the time of the year, and we were just speaking to Tim McDonough as well. You were also very involved in the budget balancing committee, which is budget season is heating up. How is that going?
You know, every year it's difficult, but I think you know, long term we're trying to change the basic. You know, we're trying to eliminate the structural deficit. So, you know, every year for the last 5 years we've been putting in $1.3 million of free cash just to balance the budget, and even though that appears to be a balanced budget, it's really taking your reserves, and so you really have a deficit. So if we used $1.5 million of free cash to balance the budget, then we're really saying we're producing a budget that's a deficit of $1.5 million, and we're taking money out of the bank. So, so what we're trying to get to the point is that we're not using free cash to balance the budget. So that's a big difference. And for fiscal 2020, which we started 4 months earlier than we usually start, you know, we've made that assumption that we're not going to use free cash. So we're still struggling to get, because it is still early for information, we're still struggling to get a bottom line and to get both the school side and the general government side to really pare down that budget to the point and kind of pretend that we're at the end of the year when you have to make those tough decisions. Right. And so we're trying to get that as low as possible, because there is talk about potentially, you know, needing to have a request anyways for an override. So, you know, we just want to be as diligent as possible that, let's say, for instance, if last year's budget, the school used all of their circuit breaker money and revolving fund money, that they're doing that same thing in this presentation. So we're working through all those details.
So you've had a lot of experience, Tom, and former selectman, town accountant and clerk, now director of finance, with this whole process. You said we started earlier, so that's a little bit different. What are you seeing that's different this year than maybe in past years?
Well, I think the free cash is the single biggest issue, and in fact, you know, because we used so much free cash the previous year, you know, we didn't produce much this year because we used, you know, we had a bigger, you know, deficit by using, you know, going into it last year. So, so we just had certified $1,694,000, which to the average person sounds like a lot of money, but the previous year we had $5 million, which is a little overinflated, but usually we would get about $3 million a year. And, you know, to actually generate that much, we're going to have to stop using free cash at the beginning. So that's the single biggest difference. And then the other thing is, you know, to try to get the schools through year to year. I think in fiscal 17 we appropriated about a little over $400,000 to the schools for their 17 budget, so they could prepay fiscal 18 sped, which of course made the 18 budget a little easier to handle, but it also, you know, kind of reduced what the actual cost was in 18. We did the same thing in the following year of $350,000. So if you look at the initial budget that the school sent us this year, it's up 12% in special ed. But part of it is, you know, the costs are real, but part of it is that we, you know, a little bit artificially showed a lower cost than the previous year because we had prepaid it. So, you know, both the use of free cash and prepaying sped, you know, they're really not long-term solutions. So I think at some point, it seems to me that there's a good chance that Budget Balancing Committee will recommend some sort of an override. And you know, people have to decide, you know, do they want, really as a town, do they want to be Bedford Falls or Pottersville? I was watching It's a Wonderful Life last night, as a matter of fact. And in fact, I made that reference to the town manager, and he was glossing over because, you know, he's 34 years old, and, you know, that was made in 1946. So, but I think most people understand that reference. I mean, you know, what type of town do you want to be? And, you know, we, like any other town, will live with whatever the people decide. But I think, you you know, if we don't go that way, there is going to be some significant decrease of service. Certainly a little bit in fiscal 20, and then, you know, more as time goes on. Because in general, the limits of Proposition 2.5% increase plus new growth. You know, this year in 2020, we're only generating 3% overall revenue increase. And, you know, most of the cost of running an operation is delivery of services by teachers, by police and fire, et cetera. And in general, those you know, cost about 3.5% a year. So you can do the math. You know, it's a struggle year after year. And so I think that's the big difference.
Super. Well, Tom, we really appreciate the check-in on how the switch has occurred in the town clerk position, and the very timely topic about how the town budget is going.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thanks again.